Oh, it is that time of year where all of the salty internet fans complain about the Observer Awards, with some people actually thinking that Dave Meltzer votes and picks the winners himself, which is not how the Observer Awards work at all. But you could say he might influence people's opinions by, talking in glowing terms about AEW or who he thinks are his favorites. But I do think there are people who actually believe that it is just Dave picking the winners, and they have no idea that these awards are fan voted. We go through this every single year. Let's take a look at some of these categories, shall we? I'm not going to go through all of them, there's too many of them, but just some of the key ones. Jon Moxley winning Wrestler of the Year for 2020 is fine. I thought he did a good job of carrying AEW along as the champion for much of the year during the pandemic. He had some pretty good matches, excellent promos. One of the best promos in wrestling right now. But Drew McIntyre repped WWE as champion for much of the year too, and he also, I thought, did a very good job. I thought he had some great matches. I thought he deserved higher than number 5 on that list. AEW wins for Promotion of the Year with New Japan at number 2 and WWE at number 3. New Japan did not even run any shows for months after the pandemic started. WWE did. But then I think back to a lot of those empty arena PC shows that were just dreadful. Just bad television. I'm okay with that order. Best Weekly TV Show, Dynamite, wins with NXT at number 2, Being the Elite at number 3, AEW Dark at number 4, and SmackDown at number 5. If you are going to include BTE and Dark, then change the name of the category. Unless they air on television in some other country overseas that I'm not aware of, I mean, maybe Dark does, I don't think Being the Elite does, then they don't belong on the list. For Best TV Show. They don't belong in the category for Best TV Show. I enjoyed Dynamite and NXT consistently more than I did Raw and SmackDown last year, so that sounds about right to me. I mean, SmackDown has improved quite a bit, although I think that really is only a recent thing in the last few months. I wouldn't say it was like that for the majority of 2020. So that order sounds about right. Raw won for Worst Television Show, as it should. Excalibur wins for Best TV Announcer. Jim Ross comes in at number 4, and yet he comes in at number 4 for the Worst Wrestling Announcer, so that was an interesting little combo he pulled off there. Michael Cole takes the top spot for Worst Announcer. Corey Graves at number 2, and Beth Phoenix at number 3. Uh-oh. Edge is he's gonna go block all of you now. Most disgusting promotional tactic. No surprise here, WWE firing dozens of people during a pandemic, followed by WWE operating without any COVID testing, which is what was going on in the first few months, until now they test all the time. We weren't doing that in the first few months. WWE banning its independent contractors from third-party opportunities. WWE running in Saudi Arabia. And AEW rounding out the top 5 in the most disgusting promotional tactic, which again, the title of the category and some of the nominees each year, it's a little misleading. Is it really a promotional tactic? But AEW rounds out the top 5 in allowing the Matt Hardy-Sammy Guevara match at All Out to continue after that sickening bump that Matt took on the back of his head, in the back. And I'm glad that it was included on this list. It deserved to be. That is still disgusting to think about. Tony Khan wins for Best Booker and Best Promoter. You know what? Ghetto deserved to not win number 1 for putting the title on Evil. He came in number 2 for Best Booker. For that move alone, he deserved to not win the number 1 spot again. But I have to be fair about this. You cannot say that Vince McMahon did not give us some good stuff either, right? He finally signed off on the Roman Reigns heel turn, which has single-handedly made him the best thing going right now in WWE. And it is a very big part of why SmackDown is a much more watchable show and even enjoyable on some weeks than Monday Night Raw is. Whoever came up with the idea, whether it was Roman himself, who insisted, look, I want to take my character in a different direction. And that's my understanding, is that Roman had a lot to do with that decision. Paul Heyman clearly is involved. He obviously had some influence, I would think. But at the end of the day, Vince McMahon has to sign off on it. He says yay or nay, whether he comes up with the idea himself or not. And he did it. And I wish he had done it a lot sooner. And I wish it came at a time where we had actual people in the crowd. But it ended up being one of the best moves that he made all year. You know, the Hurt Business, maybe the only good thing to come out of that empty arena era of Raw. But I kind of look at it in a different way. When you're talking about best booker or promoter and all that kind of stuff. The worst of WWE in 2020 was by leaps and bounds worse than the worst stuff that AEW gave us. So I think wherever you rank Tony Khan on your list, and he may be at the top, he may be in the middle, he may be dead last, he should be ranked above Vince McMahon for last year. We had The Fiend winning for worst gimmick of 2020. Retribution comes in at number 2 and Alexa Bliss at number 3. I'm calling bullshit on this. Retribution is worse than anything Bray Wyatt has ever done. Even if you believe that the Fiend gimmick is just a career killer, you know what? If you believe that, it only killed one career. If you're not a fan of what Alexa Bliss is doing, then maybe you say it killed 2 careers, which I disagree with, but at most, it killed 2 careers. Retribution killed 5. If Retribution was a person, it would be a serial killer. You'd be watching a documentary series about it on Netflix in 10 years. The Fiend has lost a lot of his luster, I agree. And I'm hoping when he does come back, you know, he's had a much longer layoff than I expected him to have, which I guess makes sense for somebody who was burned alive on television. But when he does come back, I mean, it's been so long, you know, and he did get burned, he's got to change things up. I'm expecting a new look, maybe a new mask. Something has to be different about Bray Wyatt, about The Fiend, when he does come back to television soon. Because obviously this is going to end up with some kind of, maybe a Firefly Funhouse match with Randy Orton, whatever the payoff is. I expect him back on television very soon. And I'm kind of hoping he changes things up. And as far as Alexa Bliss, you know, even though she's been saddled with some absolutely nonsensical shit, she has largely done a tremendous job in the role. I think it's very unfair to rank her that high when it comes to worst anything, really. But neither one of them are as bad as Retribution. One of the members literally asked to be sent back to NXT to get out of doing it. How is Retribution not number 1? Anyway, if you are interested in reading up on the rest of the Observer Awards, I know some of you don't care, but you can go on the Observer site. They're all listed there. Those are the ones that kind of jumped out at me. But again, don't get too bent out of shape about it because it's not that big of a deal. It is not worth getting upset about. Although that Retribution thing kind of got me a little hot.